So this evening, our first order of business is to introduce the moderator, Mr. James Rapetti. Our assistant moderator, Mr. David Haviland, are both here, and they are going to conduct the meeting for the balance of this evening. Jim, thank you for joining us.
Well, thank you, John, and thank you for attending, and thank you to those who are on Zoom as well. The purpose of this meeting is to try to organize the process for a town meeting. And it's going to be interesting this year because we haven't really done this for a couple of years, having had a regular town meeting. And the result is I'd like to first direct a question to Rob Andrews. Rob, are you on Zoom? Yep, there you are. I hope you're feeling a little bit better.
Thank you.
Rob, I was wondering, do you want to, traditionally the warrant committee chair would make some opening comments at the beginning of the town meeting about the state of the town fiscal affairs. Do you want to do that, or do you want to just wait until we get to Article 4?
I'm happy to wait till Article 4, unless members of my committee feel strongly otherwise.
Okay, does anybody on the warrant committee feel differently? How about Selectmen and Chris? Any thoughts? I just thought it might be a way to sort of push the meeting along. And then secondly, John Jeffries, traditionally the chair of this board of Selectmen would also make some opening remarks. Do you want to do that, to go back to that tradition, or?
I thought, in keeping with the idea of moving the meeting along as well, unless we have comments from our committee, I would like to, in keeping with that, Jim, move the meeting along, go straight to the articles, and let's get right to business if we can. And I'm sure there are things that we're going to comment along as we progress during the meeting, but we will be prepared for opening remarks at the beginning of town meeting, but none this evening.
Okay, but at the town meeting, you would like to make some opening remarks?
Yes, we will.
Okay, fine, very good. Okay, and Rob, you will be, assuming that you're healthy, you will be making the motion, and Andy or City will be seconding?
Correct.
Okay, very good. I hope you feel quickly, my friend.
I think a lot of folks feel that way, especially my children.
Right. Very good. Okay, then moving to our
ultimate plan, just
Yeah, is there plan B if Rob can't make it?
Well, yeah, Andy will do the motions, and she doesn't know it yet, but I was going to ask Janet McCormick to do the seconds.
Okay. Very good. Thank you. And then we'll, moving through the motions, we'll have the motion that will be read before Article 1 that deals with identifying sources of funds. Then Article 1 will be acting on the committee reports. That's pretty pro forma. Article 2 will then be establishing salaries for elected officials for the fiscal year 2023. If there are any questions with respect to Article 2, to whom should I direct the questions? Rob, would the warrant committee want to address any questions that might arise?
Sure.
Okay, very good. Article 3, amounts for revolving funds. And there, I guess we could, again, Rob, if you don't mind, I would direct questions initially to you.
Yep.
Okay, very good. Article 3, additional revolving funds, same thing, Rob, I'll direct questions to you. Article 4, operating budget. In order to expedite time, the last two meetings, I have not read every line item. Instead, I've read the summaries of the categories. Do you all think that I should continue that practice, or should I go back to the old practice of reading every line item and asking for holds?
I prefer the summary. Bob?
Agreed.
Yeah, no, I think
right, me too, because
it worked very well, Jim.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right.
It also does just move it along, and by reading the total, people can still hold.
Right.
Exactly.
Okay, very good. So I'll
Robin,
just
Robin, I didn't hear what you, did you say something after Bob? We were at the same time.
I
Are
said
you
I
okay?
agreed.
Oh, perfect.
Okay, good. So I'll read just the totals in Article 4 rather than going through every line item. Some questions have come up. What happens if there's a hold? Basically, this motion is that I'll read through the items, and if nobody says hold, then all the items will be deemed to have been approved. If somebody says hold, then we'll have to have a separate vote on the items that were held. And that will require a motion, a second, and then we'll have discussion. And I know that some boards have been concerned that holds might be directed in their towards their particular line item. So I have spoken to those boards already, and hopefully they'll be prepared to respond to any questions that might arise. Okay, then moving to Article 5. We have the capital budget, and again, now here we don't have as many items, so I probably will just read through the line items. And Barry, if there are any questions with respect to Article 5, is it okay if I direct them to you?
Absolutely, that's fine.
Okay, great, thank you. Article 6. Okay, so here, Chris, we're going to be combining some articles for a consent vote. It would be Article 6 for unemployment compensation, Article 8 for road construction, and Article 9 for the conservation fund. The purpose for combining these into one vote is to save time. They're relatively small amounts of money. They have not been controversial in the past. If somebody does have a question with respect to any of those items, they can voice that, and then we'll consider each item separately. So it's not disenfranchising anybody. It's not going to eliminate discussion, but it is a way that, assuming that nobody objects, we'll be able to move through this a little bit more quickly. Chris, thanks for organizing this, putting those together.
Can you just explain to people that if they wish to put a hold on one of the items to do so?
That's right. So if somebody has an objection, they would simply say hold with respect to one of the items, and then we would have a separate discussion.
If there's questions or a hold, then what? Who do we go to?
Well, I'm assuming at that point that we'll go to the warrant committee again. Rob?
Yeah, we'll take everything.
Okay, very good. The utility infielder, very good.
He's
Yeah, well,
clearly
we're-
planning to be at home.
Okay.
No.
No, the kids are up at that hour.
Yeah, I know
so
the kids,
he's
yeah.
gonna wanna be-
If there's a hold, is separate, the new motion.
The warrant committee will do that, as always, yeah. Yeah, Rob, Dave asked who would make the motion if there is a hold, and the answer is the warrant committee. You'll be doing
Correct.
that. Okay. Okay, Article 9 was part of the above. Article 10, General Stabilization Fund. John, will you be the person addressing any questions that go to this? Okay.
Yeah, 7 is not listed
Are we
in.
out of order on 7?
That was my question. Is 7 the motion before 7 the dismissal still?
Looks like it.
Yeah, it looks like a consent.
Yeah. All right. What we'll be doing is combining Articles 7, 11, 14, 17, 18, 23, and 26
Got to go to the next page.
for a motion to dismiss. Any questions, Chris? Any comments on that? Okay. Okay, so Article 11 would be one of the motions dismissed. Now, Article 12 would be the Regional School District OPEB Stabilization Fund. Who will be responding to this if there are questions? Is that you also, John, or?
It'd be either myself or Robin will.
Okay.
We'll Yeah, actually, any of us can do it. We'll divide and
My name
conquer.
down here.
Okay, very good. All right. Article 13, capital expenses for the regional school. And this will be a 2/3 vote. Who should we look to for responses to questions on this?
At the high school,
Yeah,
I'm fine. We can do that.
okay.
If we can just pause on that for a minute, Jim. Chris, have we had that motion reviewed by bond counsel at this point?
We have, Nina,
Great,
Okay, hey Nina, have you reviewed it also?
I have.
Okay, all right.
Nina, are you going to be in the auditorium or are you going to be via Zoom?
Oh, I will be there in person.
Perfect.
so the Article 12 is just an allocation of money. 700,000.
12 goes with
And the stabilization fund had been set up separately or previously? Yes, okay.
Sorry, Bob, what was that?
No, it was just Article 12. I wanted to make sure that the stabilization fund had been set up at a previous meeting. And this was just an allocation of the sort of the annual contributions, which is somewhere around 700,000.
Okay,
Right, and I think we set it up 2 years ago.
Yeah. I can't remember yesterday, let alone 2 years ago.
I'm with you all the way. Okay, Article 14 is also going to be dismissed as part of the consent vote. Article 15, funds for one-time projects, Board of Selectmen. And any questions will be directed to you, Chris. All right, okay, very good. Article 16, appropriation of funds for unpaid bills for prior years. This is going to be a 4/5 vote. And Chris, the questions will be directed to you. Anything that's controversial in this? It looks like very small amounts. Okay. All right, good. Article 17 is a part of the consent motion to dismiss. Article 18, also part of the consent motion to dismiss. Thank you, Planning Board. Article 19, zoning bylaw, floodplain overlay district. And there had been some discussion, Carol, about considering Article 22 before we consider other articles. And right now, it looks like we'll consider Article 22 before 21. Okay. So, with respect to Article 19, you don't think there's a need to review any of the definitional changes for Article 19, Carol?
So Scott Friedman will, has a 3-slide presentation to give on the floodplain if it's necessary. I haven't seen I haven't really looked at the Blue Book yet to see what was written. Whether the Warren Committee thinks we need to have a discussion or whether it can just be voted without a presentation.
Okay. So we'll just proceed in the order then. Article 19, 20.
19 is floodplain, Scott Friedman, and then 20 is
Trail easements.
easements, which I'll do.
Yeah. And then when we get to 21, we'll actually do 22 first to deal with the definitional issues, and that will lay the background in for 21.
Dave, that might be why we have a problem with the PowerPoint numbers.
Okay. And Article 19.
Excuse me, Bill Motley will do Articles 21 and 22.
I'm sorry, Carol?
Bill Motley
Okay.
presents 21 and 22.
All right. Very good. And you'll do 19 and 20?
I'm doing 20, and Scott Friedman is doing 19.
What'd she say?
Scott Friedman.
So
is
Scott-
doing
okay,
19.
Scott.
Friedman is 19,
Okay, good.
Carol is 21, and Bill Motley is 22. Do I have that right?
Carol's 20.
Carol's
That's
20.
funny.
Carol, you're 20, correct?
I'm 20. Bill Motley.
Hard life.
Got it.
Okay, great. Thank you, Carol. Okay, and these are all going to be 2/3 votes. Technically, Nina, correct me if I'm wrong on this, but does the state statute still require the planning board to make a report to town meeting for these bylaw changes?
Yes, so, but that usually is accomplished simply by presenting the article. There's no formal definition about what that report is or contains.
Okay, because in prior years, we actually asked the chair of the planning board to make a very brief comment. Do you think I can avoid doing that, or?
Well, I think that I'm assuming that the planning board is presenting the articles in some way, shape, or fashion for the zoning board changes.
Yeah, we have a PowerPoint for you.
That's plenty. That suffices as a report.
PowerPoint presentation.
Oh, you're going to do a PowerPoint?
So
Only
that's
if
suffice.
needed.
Oh.
Scott Friedman, Carol Lisbon, and Bill Motley.
Oh, so they're all going to be doing PowerPoints. Okay, very good. And all of those presentations will be under 8 minutes. Very good.
The one question I have, I know I've been in touch with Carol and Chris about some recent changes to 21 and 22. I think the motion language likely needs to change for those articles, given that the text that was on file when the warrant is printed is not going to be what's voted at town meeting. So we'll have to update that motion language to reflect that the language being adopted is pursuant to a handout at town meeting instead.
Okay, Chris, will you be able to?
Yeah, so we're just awaiting council's recommendations on that. Changes to motion.
Okay, great.
What happened was that when we decided to, Article 18, there was aspects of Article 18 that were in 21 and 22.
Okay. Okay, very good.
So one question, did we just say we needed to have handouts at the meeting for this? Nina,
Yeah,
did you say-
that is what I discussed with Chris yesterday, that where we can't adopt a motion that we are adopting the language on file with the town clerk when the warrant was printed because of the changes. We should have handouts at town meeting that reflect the changes, and then the motion references that handout as opposed to the text on file with the town clerk.
Got it.
Okay. Very good. Thank you. Okay, Article 23 will be dismissed. So the signed bylaw will be dismissed. Article 24 is the wetland protection bylaw proposal. I have been contacted by a citizen group that wishes to speak in opposition to this. David Parrish is here. Thank you. Thank you for coming tonight. And I explained to David that the rule is that he'll have 8 minutes to present the position of the group that's in opposition. And the Concom, since it's their motion, will first lead off with an 8-minute explanation of why they wish to have the amendment. David, I spoke to John Sullivan today. He said he's been in touch with you. And you know, it's my hope that both of you will be able to tell us exactly what the nature of the disagreement is at town meeting so that the citizens will be able to understand the nature of the dispute and it will be able to vote intelligently on that. So I greatly appreciate your effort of coordinating with John and trying to figure out exactly where your differences lie.
This is Alex Parker. He's actually part of our group. He's going to speak.
Okay, very good. And just a word of advice, I have always found that 8 minutes goes a lot faster than you think. And I've also found that it's only about the 5th time that I go through a script that I'm actually using the time that it's going to take me to present it in public. So spend a lot of time rehearsing and timing yourself to make sure that you can get it to 8 minutes. And the beauty about 8 minutes is, frankly, that people's attention span doesn't last much longer than that anyways. So it forces you to sort of capture the essence of the message that you're trying to convey. Quick question, is it your intention to go for questions after the vote and the rebuttal, or are you going to wait until after both presentations? I would prefer to wait until both presentations have been made, on the theory that a lot of the questions that follow the first presentation might be addressed in the second presentation. And again, even though we're trying to get back to some degree of normalcy in town meeting, we're still dealing with a fairly high infection rate in town. So, you know, the sooner that we can get everybody out of the auditorium, probably the safer we all are. And that's why we're striving to minimize the amount of time. So what I hope to have occur is 8 minute, no more than 8 minutes by the moving party, the Concom, then 8 minute rebuttal on your group, and then we'll open it up for questions. And the way we set this up is we'll have 3 microphones in the front of the auditorium. One microphone will be those who wish to speak in favor of the amendment. One microphone in the middle will be for those who simply have questions, informational questions. And the other microphone is for those who wish to speak on the other side of the issue. And I'll simply alternate between those. People will queue up wearing masks. We're gonna, we ask that everybody wear a mask, and we'll simply rotate through. So that way there's also no bias in terms of selecting those in favor or opposed. Previously, I used to do it randomly, just calling people, raising their hand. Fortunately, it usually worked out that it was the same way, that it was a pretty random distribution, but this way we're sure of having a random distribution.
Fair distribution.
Yeah, what David said, a fair distribution.
Hey, Jim. Excuse me, Jim McLaughlin with the Conservation Commission.
Yes, Jim.
John Sullivan actually called me today, and he's been diagnosed with COVID, so he asked me to sit in this evening. And Christy Violin will actually be doing the presentation.
Okay.
I'm sorry, what was Christy's last name?
What's Christy's last name, Jim?
Violin.
Violin. She's on, yeah.
And she's on Concom?
Yep.
Okay, very good. Yeah, a question came up. Somebody had asked about having a consultant speak, and our rules require that only employees of the town and town residents who are registered voters are allowed to speak. We can ask the town meeting to vote to approve somebody else to speak to the town meeting, but I would not advise that, because the vote might not pass, and then you're in the breach. You don't have somebody who's prepared to make a presentation. And frankly, I think it's much more, people are more receptive listening to a citizen speak rather than a paid consultant. So I would encourage people to go with the residents. Okay, thank you very much, Jim. And I'm sorry, you had a question. So. Okay, Felicia, PowerPoint.
Wait, Mark, will you tell people who you are, just for Zoom? And
sorry, Mark.
Thank you.
So we would like to have it tomorrow. Is that possible? Yeah, Monday's town meeting, and we have to queue it up and make sure we're ready to go. So it would help us a lot.
Yeah, I know.
Okay, but I really need it done.
Promise.
Just keep me informed as we go, so I can keep Dave informed so he knows what he's doing too. That would be great.
And Mark, what's the intent? Again.
So they want to do their 8-minute presentation.
Okay. So you good with that?
Yeah, we've already spoken. They represent a group of about a dozen citizens who are opposed. And in the procedure rules that we put together about 10 years ago, we talked about the moving party would have 8 minutes, and then groups of organized citizens in opposition to the moving party would also have 8 minutes. the thought is that it's only fair that both sides have an equal opportunity to address the issue. Okay, and I know that we want to try to proceed rapidly, but, as I mentioned to somebody today, in the short run, democracy is the least efficient form of government. In the long run, it's the most efficient form. And this is the inefficient part in the short run. We have to talk it out. And I think, and this is the fairest way to do it, with both sides having 8 minutes to present their views. Okay.
Share the 2 minutes for follow-on.
And then I'm sorry?
Just to tell people the 2 minutes if they're after the 8.
Yeah, and then as we have in our procedures discussion, questions and comments from the citizenry are limited to 2 minutes. We request people confine it to 2 minutes so that everybody has a chance to talk. And we've been doing this for 10 or 11 years now. In any event, it seems to work pretty well. So, thank you. Okay, water use restriction bylaw. If there are any questions, I'll be going to you, Robin, on
Right,
this.
and we've put together a short presentation, just an overview that we'll be making, and it's less than 8 minutes.
Okay, and is there a PowerPoint?
There is,
And
and
Felicia?
Dave and I have been working on it together,
Okay, very good.
Is it done?
almost. It will be, I have a few more tweaks I'm gonna make and send to him.
Okay.
I think you should give her a midnight tonight deadline.
I also think I should come in here and check for it, right?
Just harass Dave.
Okay, and this will be a majority vote. It's not a 2/3 vote because it's not a zoning bylaw. Okay, Article 26, which deals with Hale Reservation, is going to be dismissed because we'll be having a separate special meeting. Has there been any discussion about when we're going to have that meeting yet? No? Okay, so something to come. Then there's the citizens petition, Ray, the climate emergency resolution. And I know the Board of Selectmen have been involved in some discussions, and maybe, John, you could bring us up to speed on what you fellows would like to do with respect to that item.
So as of the moment, we've had conversations with Don Fattori. Don has had conversations with the petitioners. There are 3 young women at the high school who have been the nucleus of the article, and what the Board of Selectmen in conversation with Rob and Warrant, what we would like to do in the spirit of moving the meeting along is for the selectmen to read a support of the article at the beginning of town meeting. And what our goal and objective is to recognize the students, recognize what they're attempting to do, recognize the energy, the effort, and the vision they've put into this, and then announce our support of what they are trying to do, recognize them at the beginning of the town meeting, either 1, 2, or the 3 students, and then they will ask for a dismissal of the article. The only way that Andy felt comfortable with that is that if the article was dismissed by the petitioners at the beginning of the meeting. So that's what our intent is, again, for the purpose of moving this along, as it's not a binding referendum in any way. So that's where we are as of the moment, Jim.
Okay.
Are you okay with that from a procedural standpoint?
I think what I would prefer is that we have the motion to dismiss after we have the preliminary article that we vote on, the preliminary article that deals with identifying alternative sources of funding. I know that the 2 aren't related, but I think just as a matter of precaution, it's good to have that one formally adopted before we consider anything else, because you can never tell what's going to happen when you're considering a motion. So,
Okay,
so the first motion, John, is the motion that Rob would be making about identifying funding sources. So I would say have your opening remarks. You can introduce them. You can explain that after we consider the preliminary motion on identifying funding sources, then we'll move to a vote to dismiss. So then we'll immediately jump from the first vote to a motion to dismiss. And the reason, again, I want to do it that way is technically a motion to dismiss is entitled to discussion.
Understood.
And during that process of discussion, there might be motions to amend that might involve government expenditures. So I think it's really important to have that first motion in place involving the identification of alternative funding sources.
Understood. So Rob, are you okay with that from a sequence?
Yeah, yes, that sounds great. I agree with Jim on all his points.
Okay, great. Thank you.
So 27 basically is going to be dismissed.
At the beginning, right. So just we're moving 27 up to the front.
Robin, Bob, are you okay with
Yeah,
just
yeah, fine.
in terms of with the recognition of the students and for the purpose of everything, all parties involved?
Yeah, I mean, to be perfectly honest, I would have preferred that we had done this at a future date when we didn't have to worry about COVID, because time is of the essence. But I appreciate that this is a way to shorten the process versus actually having a full-blown discussion when we got to Article 27. So I appreciate the effort to do that. But as I mentioned at the Selectmen's meeting a couple of weeks ago, given that we're still in the middle of a pandemic, I would have much preferred that the sponsors of this motion had waited until the next town meeting when we were out of the pandemic, because every moment counts. At least that's what the Board of Health has been advising me. Two MDs, 2 out of the 3 members of our Board of Health are MDs. And we've been working, Felicia, Dave, and I have been working very closely with them, trying to make sure that we can have as safe a meeting as possible. So I thank you for taking the bull by the horn here and moving this along as quickly as possible. Thank you.
We'll recognize Robin right after this.
Yes. If that's okay, Robert. Okay. Okay, Article 28. Oh, wait a minute. Lost the page here. Okay, Mr. Stewart, James, you'll be the making the motion, and you have somebody lined up for a second, and then you'll make your 8-minute presentation. Now, are you still going to be using the PowerPoint? Yes. And Felicia, do you already have James's PowerPoint?
I don't. Do you, Dave?
Tomorrow.
Okay.
Okay, great. And
I'm looking forward to it.
And James, has anybody contacted you? Is there any group in opposition to this, or I haven't heard anything? Okay. Okay. Well, I think then with the way we'll proceed, you're the moving party. You'll make the 8-minute presentation, and then we'll open it up for discussion. And the discussion will be the usual 2-minute limit for questions or comments on the motion. Okay, great, very good. Thank you.
May we ask who's seconding, just so we can make.
Okay. The key is that they'll just have to stand up, say we second, and then give their address, name and address. So it's not very difficult. Okay, 29, installing sidewalks. Is the moving party here? I don't see her here today. Is she on Zoom? Irma, believe Irma is her name.
No, she's not on Zoom.
Okay.
Jim, can I apologize, just going out of order. Jim, can we just go back to Mr. Stewart's article for 1 second?
Sure. Back to 28.
Yeah. Jim, just with regards to the article, and I know that it's literally the 11th hour. There's no opposition. It's not a binding referendum, and there's no, you don't anticipate somebody to stand up, and somebody may stand up in the audience. Is it necessary to go through a motion? If the consideration of looking at the size of the Board of Selectmen is something that the board is already going to take into consideration, is it necessary to go through a formal town vote at town meeting if it's something that the selectmen are already looking at in our general government overview, as we do every year, and we're specifically focusing on the inside operations of our townhouse and our general government in our goals and objectives for next year and the year after. And look, before you answer that, Jim, Robin, Bob, would you add anything to that? Would you?
Well, I don't think it's specific, and what James is trying to do here is just to move along some of the modernization that we're doing, and he's asking for $7,500 for a study to look specifically at that.
Yeah, well, I just take I take a more Jim-like legalistic view. I mean, Mr. Stewart has gone through all the steps he needs to do to have a warrant article presented to town meeting. He should present the article at town meeting, and we see what happens from there.
Right, and he has to have a motion to present the
Right.
article. He has to describe
just
what he's
procedural.
presenting.
I'm sorry?
It's a procedural matter, and
Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, either way, since it's in the warrant, we would either have a motion to achieve the underlying objectives of the warrant, or we would have a motion to dismiss.
yeah, okay.
Either way.
Then the other side of that coin is, I mean, I think it is important that the town know that the Board of Selectmen do intend to address the particular issue, as part of their modernization effort. And it's on and it's queued up. At least it's on the docket for FY23.
After James has spoken, is there someone from the Board of Selectmen?
Yeah, I think
who wishes to
John
make comments?
would do that,
Yeah.
I think.
Yeah.
Okay.
I just go back to Jim, what you were saying as you were commenting on Article 1 with the students article, and your preference to have
Yeah.
this done at another time. And it's the same thing, Jim. I agree with Bob. I don't want to take away anything that you've done. We don't want to take away anything the students have done, but we're working with them along the same lines of trying to minimize just the sheer time that we're in the auditorium. So your measure could come up, it could come up for debate. There could be opposition. There could be motions to withdraw. And there also, as you know, there could be motions to reconsider at the very end of the evening, regardless of how the motion passes or fails. So it's potentially a lot of time and a lot of energy in the meeting. And I'm not saying this to take away anything that you've done to support it or to bring it to the meeting, but in the same spirit that Mr. Rapetti is referring to the students article, I think we should at least have discussed this evening and let everybody know where we feel or how we feel from just the procedural aspect of town meeting. Jim?
Okay, that's fine. By the way, if you don't mind, if we just go back to Article 27, the students are all under age 18.
No,
Oh,
they're not all over 18.
none of them are 18?
Is the presenter, I think there's just be one.
No, she's not.
Okay, so
No,
we're
none of
gonna
the-
need-
I spoke to Angela, and she said they're all, none of them are of voting age.
Okay, then we'll need somebody else to make the motion to dismiss on their behalf.
It most likely, Rob, I believe that will be Dawn. I haven't confirmed that with her, but I was speaking to her today. And so I do know that none of the students are 18.
Okay. Is Dawn a resident of Dover?
Yes.
Yes.
Salvatore.
Okay, good.
Business manager.
Then I guess if somebody could contact her and I ask her if she would be willing to make the motion to dismiss.
Yeah, we've had that conversation today.
Okay, that would be great. And we'll have to identify somebody who will second that. And then we'll have a opportunity for discussion, and then we'll vote on the dismissal.
So we're going to do that earlier on.
And we'll do that after the motion that is read before Article 1.
Okay.
So we'll do the motion Article 1 before Article 1, which deals with identifying alternate funding sources. Then we'll move directly to Article 27. Ask for a motion to dismiss. We'll have opportunity for discussion, and then we'll vote on the dismissal. Okay. And again, I want to make clear, I'm not opposed to this in any way. I just, it's just a question of cost and benefit analysis in terms of risk and reward, in terms of the time that we're going to be spending in the auditorium. Okay, so we're not sure what's going to happen with Article 29. Will anybody be in touch with the moving party on this? Petitioner?
I think there's been attempts.
Yeah, the selectmen's office will reach out to you.
Okay, okay, great, thank you.
If the petitioner doesn't show up, then how does it
What
get resolved?
happens?
Well, good question. Dave just asked, what happens if the petitioner doesn't come to town meeting? The tradition in Dover has been for many, many years that a citizen's petition should, in the first instance, if the moving party, the sponsor, wants to withdraw, she should make the motion. If she's not here, then I think it's wide open for any party to then make a motion, either that is in support of the warrant article or moving for dismissal. So
Would that be the warrant article? Would that be the warrant committee?
I'm happy.
it could very
I'm
well
happy.
be.
Jim, if
sir.
if she's not there, I'm happy to make that move to dismiss.
Okay, thank you, Rob.
And someone on my Andy will second it, or someone on my committee will second it.
Okay, very good. Thank you. And Article 30, transfer from free cash to the stabilization. Free cash to stabilize the tax rate. Questions on that, Mr. Who will be speaking to that? Is there any questions?
I can.
Okay. Okay. And then lastly, we'll have a motion to adjourn.
Our favorite motion.
Yep. And that is not debatable, so.
No presentation needed.
No presentation will be needed. Let me just say thank you very much for those who attended in person and on Zoom. And I particularly would like to thank the town employees, in particular Felicia Hoffman, the town clerk, our elected town clerk, and Chris Dwelly, and also members of the Board of Health who are not here today, but all of that group have been working very diligently to try to make sure that we have a safe town meeting. And I think it's wonderful that we're able to move forward and start to assume some semblance of normalcy. But in doing so, it's the result of a lot of hard work by these individuals. So thank you very much.
Agreed.
Okay.
Jim, before we close your section of the meeting this evening, can you and/or Dave both comment what you have been advised by the Board of Health? What is, can you please I'm sorry?
Protocols?
Yeah, the protocols. Can you please differentiate what is being requested versus what's being required?
Okay. Felicia, you had just posted something today. Do you want to summarize the?
Sure. So we are requesting people to wear masks. If you want to sit in the auditorium, I guess you could say it's required to sit in the auditorium to wear a mask. If you don't choose to wear a mask, we ask that you sit in the cafeteria. It is a suggestion if anybody's interested. There are COVID-19 tests. If you'd like to test the day of town meeting and make sure you're healthy, that is a suggestion. I don't know if that answers your question.
To a certain extent, it does. How, when you say you're going to be required to wear a mask in the auditorium, how can the Board of Health deem that a requirement?
I think, John, and I'm speaking out of turn, I'm giving my own interpretation.
Kay
Kay, are you
is
there?
Zoom.
Oh, super.
Hi, Kay.
We need Kay to answer this question.
Dr. Peterson, how are you?
I'm fine. How are you, John?
I'm happy to jump in as well, Kay and board, if folks need to. These are questions that all towns are asking right now.
Go ahead, Nina.
So as I said, many towns are trying to figure out what to do with town meeting, particularly because local and statewide mask mandates have been lifted. In all of our towns, to varying degrees, masks have been required at town meeting. Many have approached it the way that you all are approaching it, whereas you don't. It's not required to attend town meeting, but it's required to attend in a certain room or in a certain section of a room. And it has been widely accepted that the Board of Health has the authority to determine the rules around these public gatherings, even in the event of no similar statewide mask mandate. Or townwide mask mandate. Is that get to the question you're asking, John?
Sure, Nina, and what we're going to get, and I'm assuming we're going to get some comments, questions from the citizens who plan on attending as to why. What's your rationale, Kay, as to why the Board of Health is requiring this?
So there is a lot of COVID right now in our community, obviously statewide, but also in Dover.
Okay, how do you please be specific. A lot is a very ambiguous term. What specifically are you referring to?
I'm referring to incidents of COVID in our community.
Specifically?
You want numbers?
How many? Numbers.
Okay, I think he's asking what numbers you're referring to. Are you referring to positivity rates? Are you referring to actual case numbers?
Yes.
Referring to actual case numbers as well as the incidents per 100,000. So the case we have had in the past 7 days in Dover, that is, the figures I have are through 7 days that ended on Wednesday, yesterday. We had 18 cases reported to the Department of Public Health, which is really the tip of the iceberg. And that's about a doubling of the number of cases reported to the Department of Public Health compared with the week before. Does that answer the question, John?
To a certain extent, sure. How does that give us a sense of what does that compare to in a normal, if there is such a thing as normal, how does that compare to where we have been, to what we are? What are you comparing that to March, to February, to January? How does that compare to where we were last year?
Well, I don't have all those numbers at my fingertips, but I can tell you that the number of cases in the week that ended on Wednesday was twice the number of cases that were in the previous week. And prior to that, it was we've probably had between 8 and 10 cases per week for several weeks. And suddenly we're up to 18 cases, but that 8 to 10 per week is higher than it had been a few weeks before. So we are the number of cases is climbing.
But isn't the number of cases consistent where we just came back from vacation? Lots of kids were in lots of different places, lots of moms, lots of dads traveling. Most of my family traveled during the April vacation. Most of them traveled during the February vacation. They came back, positivity rates went up, both at the beginning at the return from the February vacation, return from the April vacation, and the return from the Christmas vacation. So isn't that consistent with what you've been seeing?
Absolutely. But what goes along with that, John, is that when the case rates are up in your community, your risk of contracting COVID by being out and about in that community goes up. And it's you can do a lot to reduce that risk by having people wear masks. And that's why
So
we
thank
think
you.
mask
Let's step in.
wearing is a good idea. Pardon?
So I don't know if it's Kay, if it's you, or Nina, if it's you, but my understanding is the Board of Health is recommending or requesting that people wear masks at town meeting. And then we're covering the issue if people wear masks, they're in room A. If people choose not to wear masks, they're in room B. So I don't see this as a sort of a mandate, or it's just sort of to segregate the population a little bit. My understanding, based on conversations that I've had with you, was that, I mean, this is really about being respectful to older residents in the town who tend to make up a bigger proportion of the folks who attend town meeting. And so it's just meant to make sure that people who want to attend town meeting across the spectrum feel that the town has done everything that we should do to make it as safe as possible. And that's what this is all about. Is that right?
That's
Did I paraphrase it correctly?
That's very well put, Bob. Yes.
So, if you don't want to wear a mask, you got to sit in the cafeteria and you got to clean up afterwards. But I think that's it. And I can go back to the numbers. And Kay, you and I certainly have battled over numbers for 2 years now. But it's not about the numbers per se. It's about making sure that people who want to attend the meeting can attend the meeting and feel that we've done all we can to make it safe.
Right. In that regard, I might add that some people have asked, well, can't we conduct a town meeting via Zoom? And the answer is no. The state statutes do not allow us to do that. And the Secretary of State has been requested to reconsider that and so far has refused. So the only way that we're so-called open town meeting where all citizens are allowed to attend. And the only way that we can have a town meeting is to have an actual physically present meeting. We cannot do it via Zoom or any of the other methods that might otherwise be available that we use every day in our job. Yeah. It is, but I think the memo that Felicia just released covers that point as well. And Felicia, correct me if I'm wrong, but it's my understanding that we're asking that people, when they are at the microphone, also wear a mask.
Yep, I discussed that with Dr. Peterson, and that's what we feel is most safe for everybody, because you don't want to be, no offense, spitting on a mic, and we then need to have somebody come and clean it off before the next person can go. So we're asking while you're there that you're fully masked the entire time.
Yeah, I think the good news is that every day I'm speaking into a microphone as part of my job, and I'm wearing a mask, and actually people can understand when you're speaking into the microphone. Where we have the difficulty is like I was having with Carol, where she's 25, 30 feet away and the mask is there, and also I'm hard of hearing as it is. Then it's more difficult. But when people are actually right at the microphone, I think you'll find that the mask is not going to be too much of an impediment, if at all.
I think somebody's just going to have to do
Yeah, that's a good point.
Dave has a cattle prod.
Usually the audience does.
Yeah, I was going to say the audience is usually pretty vocal.
Yeah, they're pretty vocal as well. Yeah.
Since this is a relatively recent development where the case is rising and you put the notification on the website this morning, is there anything else we can do to get this word out to the citizens?
Well, I do know that it's going out, if it hasn't already, on the Dover MA Facebook page. I asked and received help from Council on Aging. They put it out in their newsletter today.
Also, with the blurb that they send out, they have like a thing that they do every 2 weeks. I saw it and wrote.
That's what I'm
That's
talking
what
about.
you-
Yeah,
yeah,
that's
okay.
what they did.
Great.
It's also on the actual town meeting page right at the top, and we're doing everything that we can. And I just urge everybody to encourage whoever is thinking of coming. Hey, remember you need to wear a mask so you can be in the auditorium.
Felicia, will we be able to have masks available in case people forget to bring them?
Why, yes, we do.
Very good.
I have many.
Very good.
So Nina, I have a question for you if Jim is done.
I am. Thank you. Go ahead.
So
Bob.
if you have someone this was sort of a troublesome one for me. If you have someone who doesn't want to wear a mask, but they want to ask a question, the way I understand it is they have to go into the auditorium. Did that change?
No, but I'd like to jump in on that.
Okay.
Sorry. So what we're asking is that you're in the cafeteria, you want to ask a question. In order to ask a question, you need to go into the auditorium. In order to go into the auditorium, you must wear a mask.
Right.
If they're not willing to wear a mask, then I guess there's an issue.
So Nina,
That's
can you
how I
do
read
that
it.
at a town meeting? Can you segregate? You can segregate by location, but can you prevent people from asking a question or only be allowed to ask a question, but if you wear a mask?
Yeah, because it's not just, it's a good question, Bob, because it's not just asking a question, right? It's speaking at all. I'm
Yes.
assuming you can vote, but what we're saying is unless you wear a mask, you can't speak and voice your opinion at town meeting. I do have some concerns with that. I would hope that folks are reasonable and we don't need to answer this question. Where I've had it in my other towns, what we've done is we have AV setups in the other room, or in one town, the portion of what we'll call the non-mask portion of town meeting was actually in one corner of the auditorium with some spacing, and they had their own mic. So I have not had a circumstance where those that choose not to be masked or are otherwise exempt medically from mask mandates have not been permitted to speak or ask questions.
Okay, so are we going to put a microphone in the cafeteria?
That's what we've been trying to
That's
figure
what
out.
we're
All
trying
right,
to figure
okay.
out.
Yeah, I just found that troublesome from a free speech point of view,
Yeah,
Nina.
we have
Yeah, and that has been my concern,
Okay.
but that's something we'll iron out so that everybody has their chance,
To speak.
one room or the other.
Okay.
and monitor. How do we monitor the folks in the cafeteria?
So my election workers will be going in and out.
Yep.
The way I envision this now that we're having this conversation is they will stand in the halfway spot in the auditorium.
Mhm.
They'll wave a hand, which will indicate somebody out there wants to speak.
Right.
We'll get a mic out, Jim will be alerted, and we'll have to do it that way.
Is that how we did it
With the
when we
rail
split
trail.
the meeting? Have we
Yeah.
done, is that the
Right.
way we did it?
Yes, with the rail trail. We did that.
Well, it was slightly different. It was, but yes, that's the way we'll do it. We'll make sure everybody gets to speak.
And we'll have a moderator in that room counting votes, correct?
But no, we're going to be electronic voting. They will have clickers. So that will be the easy part. We'll just, we're told that we'll be able to register votes from both rooms.
Yeah.
Right.
And we'll test that at the beginning of the meeting. We'll do a dry run at the very beginning to make sure everybody's clickers are working.
Yeah, we'll make it work.
Okay, good. Thank you. Thank you.
Okay, anything else? Well, again, thank you very much, everybody. Much appreciated. And we'll see you Monday. Thank you.
Jim, can I ask a question?
Rob?
Nina, I'm sorry, did you say?
Somebody's got
That was
to.
Gordon. Gordon has a question.
Yeah, so first, Felicia, how do we, you mentioned we could get a test the day before, but the day before was Sunday, right? So do we, how do we get a test? Because I would want a test because I have really bad allergies and can't really tell whether I'm technically sick or, you know, the only way I can tell is by testing. And we're out of tests because I've been testing so much lately.
Okay, so there are tests available here at the townhouse. If you come or send somebody down, we will give you tests. So tomorrow we're open 9 to 1.
Okay.
Monday we're open 9 to, what are we open? 9 to 5. I don't know what day it is, sorry. So we can make sure that you get a test. You just need to come and see somebody. And if you want to see me, I'll make sure you get them, no problem.
All right, thanks, Felicia. And then the other question, so with the mask mandate, and this is sort of more specific to me, I think, because I have really bad allergies. So if I need to like blow my nose, for instance, you know,
You'd be removed immediately.
kicked it, run out of town on a rail, right?
Gordon, you're not going to be on the stage this year, so you'll be able to do that discreetly in the front row.
Oh,
Gordon,
I didn't realize I was on stage. Thanks.
Sorry, that came out. That was an email today. I'm sure you were just working, haven't gotten to those emails yet.
Yes, absolutely. You can take care of that, but just put your mask back on for us. Thank you.
No problem. Okay, that's perfect. Thanks. That's all I need.
Hey,
Sorry.
Felicia, just one quick question from Jim McLaughlin. Did you get the Concom presentation from Lori and John?
Yes,
Okay, thank you very much.
thanks for asking.
Thank you.
Dave, is there anyone on Zoom that would like to make a comment before we move on to the next item of business this evening?
Rob.
Is that his hand or is that something?
Yeah,
hands up.
Rob.
Yeah,
Rob, you have your hand raised.
Yeah, I just wanted to say thank you to everyone, especially the warrant committee and Jim and Chris for helping us throughout this year. It's been a pleasure chairing this group of people, and I just wanted to say thank you to everyone in the public meeting.
Hope to see you on Monday.
Yeah, get well soon, Rob.
I am working on it.
Thanks, Rob.
Take care, Rob. Thank you.
Hey, Carol, we'll see you Monday.
All right.
David, anyone else? Thank you all. We're going to move on to our next item of business this evening.
175. Still is 175. Yeah.
Selectmen
I mean,
updates.
earlier in 2020, we reduced it. Because
Thank you.
we just
See
didn't know
you.
what was going
David,
on.
thank you.
Yes. Well, there are.
Anything that you would like to bring to our attention for updates?
Most of them are.
Well, I think we have a
straight
consent
majority.
agenda, though.
Funding is a little bit more. Some of the bylaws
Updates
are a
first.
little bit higher as well.
Item 2.
Hey, Mark.
Updates, Mr. Springett? Anything you'd like to comment, update us on this evening?
I have absolutely nothing to comment on. With my cheat. No, it's, so you guys are up to date on where we are with
Yes.
Carol. You know, that's, we're gonna hopefully vote on the general contract at the end of the month at our May 26th meeting.
Yeah.
Work continues. Chris can probably report on what the work is continuing to work with to sort of sort through the issues that we may have to deal with if we have a new community center at some point in the next year and a half.
If we do.
But other than that, I'm good.
Robin, the other thing I want to add for updates is a very special thank you to all the citizens that have participated this month in cleanup. So this is our last board meeting of the month, and we have had a very, very successful. There was 100% participation on every street. I've noticed in my walks, runs, rides around town, there is participation on a daily basis. And it looks dramatically better. It's not that it ever looked bad, but it really looks good.
If you look on the side of the road, there's all sorts of stuff.
Yeah, it's amazing to me how quickly it accumulates. It also is amazing to me how many people attend to it, pick it up, and it's never going to be perfect, but we're really working to keep it a very clean town. Thank you to everyone who's participated. Robin, anything you'd like to add to the update portion?
No?
We are going to move just to actually take a quick look at our upcoming agenda. Obviously, town meeting on Monday, 7 p.m.
It's
7
yeah.
7 p.m. 7 p.m.
7
Monday.
to 7:30.
7 to 7:30.
To get the
Mudge
quorum.
Auditorium, Dover Sherburne High School, Middle School campus. Please be there early.
So,
on
so
Monday.
Chris, one of the things I was thinking about, I don't know if it's appropriate or not, but could we use the reverse 911 to let people know there's town meeting and you should wear a mask?
Yeah, I think that's a good idea and it's certainly a possibility. Let me just coordinate with Chief McGowan to see how we could make that happen. But yeah, that's a good idea.
Yeah.
Then maybe we'll get a quorum.
Yeah. I'm very fearful of this with
Right,
regards to a quorum.
I am as well.
Thank you. We're going to move to item number 3, our town administrator update. Chris Dwelly is here to provide us with projects and initiative update.
Thanks, John. Just a few things for the board this evening. The first is on the Hill effort. Happy to report that the town's negotiating team or focus group that's been working on shaping out the proposed CR with Hale is getting close, very close to having a final proposal to be able to present to the board. We actually anticipate having a document, a presentation prepared for the board in mid-May. So I've got a status check-in with Hale and the trustees tomorrow to see where they're at. After that, then I circle in with John and the other members of our group just to go through things and make sure it's in a format that's ready to present to the board. So just wanted to share that that's right around the corner at this point. To have something from the group, not necessarily presented to the board at this point. Yeah. The other item I just wanted to share with the board is that we have been in conjunction with Needham working with Congressman Auchincloss's office on submitting for a $2 million earmark for design funds for the Center Street Central Avenue Bridge. This is a good opportunity that the Congressman's office has reached out to us about a potential funding source for that project to get that started. So we're putting together some materials, some letters of support, and we're going through that process. And fingers crossed, hopefully we'll be successful in that endeavor.
Yeah. Yeah.
I guess it's an information session at Needham coming up soon.
Yes. Yeah, I saw that as well.
Might be something to pay attention to.
And is there anything you need from us for this grant? Like, should the board provide some sort of a written statement about our support?
So we've indicated in the application the board's
Right.
prior support, both through the recommendation of the match grant for the MVP
Okay.
program that the board supported. However, if the board wanted to authorize the office tonight to draft a short letter of support on behalf of the board, that would certainly be something that would be helpful to include.
Yeah.
I think we should just to include it with the application.
Yeah, I think that's a great idea. I'd move that we authorize the town administrator to include the letter of support in that. Ask for a second.
I'll second that.
All in favor, aye. John Jeffries.
Aye, Robin Hunter.
Hi, Bob Springer.
Thank you, Chris.
So again, we should have somebody at that, his information session.
Yeah.
When is it, Bob? Do you remember?
I got an email today, I can see it now.
I did as well.
I'm sure I deleted mine.
And I don't.
I'll find it. It's just one of 96 emails today. I'll forward it along.
Two other things. The first is, the third technically is we've now essentially wrapped up the first phase of our Harper's time and attendance implementation. Really? It's been quite an endeavor. We've had to essentially review and reimagine and redocument all of our kind of time and attendance policies in order to be able to do this. It was a huge lift from Dave and Carl and Jerry and Kate. And so they're in the process right now of scheduling the final training.
That's exciting.
Follow up with all staff over the next 2 weeks, and have already actually started with the phase 2 departments, which, to remind the board, are the departments who have employees that are represented by a union or a collective bargaining agreement. And that was how we structured the rollout. So it's a kind of Herculean effort and a monumental goal that we've reached here with that.
It's a huge project.
Very.
That's another check the box for modernization.
Yeah, I think that's very well stated.
And lastly, I just wanted to share that CMAC met this morning to continue their work related to recommendations around staffing, proposed staffing for the community center once it opens. During that discussion, they've also started to talk about what they will propose or recommend to the board as it relates to what CMAC could look like in the future once the new building is open. So once they've got those two pieces of work together, the plan is for them to reach out to the office and have us schedule a time before the board to be able to present both those pieces of work. So that's our plan at this point. They're targeting early summer to be able to do that. So we'll continue to march forward that way unless I hear otherwise from the board.
It'll be interesting to see what they come up with.
Yeah. Yeah.
Because even just general discussions about community center, that we talked about the direct management lines. I keep thinking about one of the things that was very when we did the project back. Representing different aspects of the community, and clearly, I think something like that could be to go forward.
Yeah.
But it's all pretty early days. We still have to figure out what's going to cost.
Yeah. And that's all I have for the board this evening.
Excellent. Thank you very much, Chris. We're going to move to the consent agenda items. Approve one-day liquor licenses for May 14th, 17th, 19th, 29th, June 14th, 18th, all of which Robin didn't get invited to.
How do you know?
Mona keeps me updated on all these things. Approve the one-day open session meeting minutes for February 17th and March 3rd, which Mona so eloquently provided. I move to approve the consent agenda as presented and ask for a second.
I'll second that.
All in favor? Aye, John Jeffries.
Aye, Robin Hunter.
Hi, Bob Springett.
Mona, you will get our signatures this evening or tomorrow? Got them all?
So what is the plan for the evaluation process for the town administrator? So do we want to do that in a June meeting?
The actual public.
Right, because you have to work backwards. It's a lot of work. I need to put things on my schedule.
I mean, I'm sort of assuming we're going to do hybrid meetings.
Yes.
And try to minimize Zoom. I mean, that's.
Yeah. And how are you with this format?
I like it.
Well, I was just talking about planning for the town administrator evaluation.
Yeah, so that'll be in June, right?
Well, that's what I'm asking, because
So
it's I know Dave or somebody here made the form more user-friendly.
So the question becomes, when do we got to have two things, right? We have to have Chris's input, and I think he's going to do a year in review in May.
26th.
Okay.
If we could get something, or I would really like to have something in my hands to start to work on mid-May. I really like it next week, but because it takes me a fair amount of time to. It
takes me a lot of time too, and that's why I was asking.
It's not just like I sit down for an hour and get this done. It just doesn't work that way. So I think if we can get sort of your worldview of 2021, 22 by mid-May, that we can begin to draft our evaluation forms so that we can target, get them done. They go to Mary. Mary consolidates, and we can do the review sometime in June, maybe the first or second meeting in June.
Mm-hmm.
Is that all right? Does that make sense?
Right.
That works. Does that work for you?
Does it work?
Yeah, that works.
Because
who do you prefer to get the form from? Like, who should, if you want it from Mary, someone should just notify Mary to send it to the board
No,
members.
it's coming from Dave, right?
Well, Dave just made the form editable. But if we already have it, it can come from Mona, someone in the office.
I sent it out last
whatever,
time.
yeah.
So if it has to be have Mona. Mona, do you mind?
I'll do it.
There you go. We'll have Mona do it.
So we'll get that to the board
Yeah.
tomorrow or early next week.
That sounds great. And I think, Bob, since you eloquently went over the timeline, maybe you could just write it up for Mona, and then we could send it to Mary as well, so she knows, because it takes Mary quite a bit of time too to pull everything
Yeah, I mean,
together.
we should get it to Mary by the end of the month, end of May.
So I do very well with deadlines. So if you put something on paper and I have a bolded deadline.
The Friday
It sounds like we're
before-
going to be a team.
We are. Well, I thought we were already.
Yeah, but now this is going to be just the two of us. This is even better.
So what's the Friday before Memorial Day?
Okay.
What is that?
It's a Friday.
The Friday before Memorial Day.
Wow.
I think Memorial Day.
Surrounded by comedians.
Oh man, you knew it was coming, right?
No, the 27th.
Oh, that's early.
Well, you said you do well with deadlines, and that's the Friday at the end of May. So if Chris got it, if
Are you
Dave
sure?
gives
Let's make it June 3rd.
I think it's the 28th.
It's May 27th is a Friday.
No, but I think Memorial Day is the,
Memorial Day is always on a Monday, Robin.
right?
and
It's
the
not
Memorial
May
Day's the 30th.
31st. It's the 30th, right?
Yeah. So why don't we do that Friday following Memorial Day, which would be June 3rd? Does that feel better? June seems like a long time away.
I will not be in Dover on June 3rd.
Yeah, but will you be able to handle a deadline to get it done
Yep.
prior to June 3rd?
Yep.
So it's really,
I have graduation moments on my calendar, June 2nd.
Good. That's good.
yes, you do.
One's your backup.
I'm your backup.
Next day.
Right.
So all you have to
1
do
minute
is
and 41
presumably
seconds.
email your document to Mary.
I can do that.
All right, before June 3rd.
I will do that.
Okay.
I know we've got the board discussing your summer schedule for May 26th. Do you want to move that up to May 12th, or do you want us to have tentative board meeting for June 9th, given the comments as to when you'd like to?
Yeah, we also have to have the meeting with CMAC in June. So there's going to be a meeting at some point in June.
This meeting?
Yeah.
To adopt this?
So
Well, the meeting to
I'm going to
decide
throw
what
a
to do with
monkey
CMAC.
wrench into this.
Excuse me?
There is an excellent chance for most of June, I will not be in the country. So if I have, and for part of it, I will not have any Wi-Fi
Oh,
whatsoever.
now you have me intrigued. Can I be your bag person? All right, maybe we need to,
But
anyway,
I don't know the exact dates yet, so I
Okay.
will let you, I know when I'm not going to have Wi-Fi, and that's towards the end of June.
I guess, so we'll think about the summer schedule. We could do something at the end of in May, see if we could do something there in terms of putting out a schedule. Then Robin will be traveling the globe.
Traveling the world. So
Let's just put the public 26th to coincide with the
Which public review?
town administration.
Your review?
It won't be done.
I would rather do that June 9th. Robin,
no.
are you here June 9th? You don't know. Because we have to do, well,
I mean-
Bob and I could do it. You don't have to be here.
I could do it via Zoom. But I'm just saying, there's going to be a time difference, and I'm
Yeah.
going to have to coordinate.
All right. Well, I would rather do it June 9th because I don't think we're going to have enough time to do it and put it on the May 26th if you just ask for June 3rd.
At 6 o'clock.
I assumed that we would do this in June.
All right, let's do it in June 9th. You'd be okay with that? All right. So Robin, in light of your recent travel developments, we're going to do Chris's public presentation of the Chris Dwelly review, June 9th.
You got to be careful, because if we get the information to Mary on June 3rd, she has to read them and then consolidate.
Right.
And I just don't know how long that will take.
Yeah.
So, I mean, to me, the important thing is to get it done, right? Get it all teed up, and then in theory, we can do it with Chris publicly at any point in time. Or does it have to be done before the end of June?
It has to be done before the.
Right, it has to be done
Have to
before
be
end
the
of June.
next June meeting.
And
So it's-
I am definitively away without Wi-Fi from the 22nd to July 5th.
All right, well, that's,
Well, then we'd have to do it.
yeah,
Before.
well, that's
But if you-
okay.
But what we're doing is as long as you have your input into Mary,
Right.
and your input is part of the evaluation document, I don't think, would you be
Well,
comfortable not being at the meeting?
Well, I'd prefer to be at the meeting. And before June 22nd, I can be at the meeting
Oh,
via
by
Zoom.
remote.
Right. It's
Okay,
just going to
okay.
be midnight for
Okay.
me, so.
We've scheduled lots of meetings,
Yes, we have scheduled lots of meetings.
so we could schedule a meeting.
Yep.
I just don't know how long it'll take Mary.
Right.
So my preference would be not, we need to get it done before the 22nd because I'm going to be out of here.
All right. Let's get it to us. Dave, get it to us. We get it back before the 9th. June 3rd, right?
Yep.
June 3rd.
And then
And
try to have the meeting the 9th.
try to have it the 9th.
But that requires a call. You want to touch base with Mary? Or do we have, should we do it?
We'll give.
Okay. Okay, good.
We good with that?
Yep.
Robin, we good with that?
I'm good with that.
All right. I think we have
I think we're done.
a motion to adjourn. I
We
think we're
do.
done. Thank you, everyone who's participated.
We did,
We
We
did.
did, yes.
We did.
right, because I remember saying, I, Robin Hunter.
We did.
Who held up the cue card?
Mona.
I'm just getting ready to sign all of these consent.
Mona, do you have them?
Why don't you make a motion to dismiss?
I move to dismiss. I move to adjourn, not
Adjourn.
dismiss, adjourn. And ask for a second. which-
Second.
All in favor, I, John Jeffries.
I, Robin Hunter.
Hi, Bob Springer. Thank you.
Thank you all.